Well, hello and welcome to the Power of Your Mind podcast. I'm Victoria Gallagher, your host, and I'm here to inspire you to tap into the power of your mind by helping you to understand the law of attraction, manifestation, hypnosis, affirmations, meditation, and many other powerful tools that are all designed to rewire your mindset and propel you toward success. Every week, we talk about proven strategies and approaches to empower you to manifest your dreams and achieve your highest potential. So, tune in each week, get inspired, and discover how to unlock the power of your mind. Today, you are listening to episode number 313, which is a really cool number, which is all about resetting your reality with Paget Kagy. Before we dive into that, just a reminder to please subscribe to the Power of Your Mind podcast on your favorite platform so that you never miss an episode. And also, you could support our little podcast here by simply downloading and subscribing to the Believe Hypnosis app. Your support means the world to me. And now, let's go ahead and dive into today's episode. I have this whole long introduction, but I kind of realize it's a little long to leave our guest waiting. So let's just go ahead and get into today's episode. So, our guest today is Paget Kagy, and Paget is a frequency healer, a quantum coach who helps her clients to release their deepest energetic blocks so that they can unlock their unique purpose and path to their most aligned life. I love that. From studying math at UC Berkeley to creating viral content and now awakening people at the quantum level, Paget is passionate about, I love it, passion is passionate about teaching
Yeah, I know.
others the mechanics of energy so that they can shift their reality through the synergy of the spiritual, the mental, and the physical. She currently lives in the Southern California area with her husband and adorable puppy, which I see in the background
I
there.
know.
How cute is he? He is it he
It's a she, but
he.
she doesn't know
You
any
know
better.
what? I said he because dogs are boys and cats are girls, but
Yeah, that's so funny, yeah.
however, I do have two male cats and one female. uh, anyway, so Paget can be found on her websites, her Instagram, Paget Kagy, and there's not too many people who have that name. So just type in Paget and you will definitely find her on all the places: TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or well, X, whichever one you
Yeah, I
call
know,
it
right?
these days, LinkedIn, Facebook, all the places. And her official page is thequantum.life. So, Patches can be talk about how we can awaken at the quantum level and reshape the very foundation of our lives so that our lives feel like the ones that we have been dreaming about and you will remember who you are. So, today, let's go ahead and dive in. Hello, and welcome to our show.
Hi, thank you for having me, Victoria. It's nice to be here.
Yes, thank you so much for being here. I was just checking out and admiring your Instagram page. You have a wealth of information about, energy, vibration, frequency, manifesting, all the things that I love talking about. So I'm really excited to, dive in and kind of find out a little bit more about this and share this with our guests.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk. Yeah, there's a lot going on my page. It's like it kind of jumps all over the place, but they're all intertwined, right? It
It really
all
is.
works together. Yeah.
It really does. I mean, it's like everything is one.
Everything is one.
We were kind of having a little bit of a conversation about this, and we're definitely in sync here on this topic very much. So what got you started on this path? Let's just kind of start there.
I feel like I don't know if you can relate to this, but like I feel like a lot of people can relate to this. People who are kind of more interested in manifestation and self-help and spirituality, it's usually because we hit some sort of crisis in our lives or some sort of moment, dark night of the soul moment where we're like, okay, none of this is making sense anymore the way that I've been doing it. I don't really know exactly who I am anymore. I don't even know what I want. And I don't know what's wrong with me, basically, is the question. So that's kind of like where I got started, where I really hit rock bottom like a little over 10 years ago when I had just gotten out of this long-term relationship with someone I thought I was going to marry. And, he was great and everything was quote perfect, but I had this deep dissatisfaction inside of me. So then, I broke up with him. I thought that was the issue. It obviously wasn't. And then it sent me into this really, really like downward spiral where my health was suffering. I was binge eating. I gained a whole bunch of weight. I was just depressed. I couldn't like get out of bed. I also wasn't sure like how am I going to make more money than like $2,500 a month. Like I just was in this really big rut and I was like, wait, how did this happen to me? Like I thought I was like educated. I thought I was like pretty smart, pretty talented in different ways, pretty capable. Why am I like in this reality that feels incredibly limited? And I didn't know, how to get out of it. And so that really sent me into the journey of like self help and then spirituality, manifestation, all of that stuff. Cause I'm like, there has to be bigger, right? There has to be more than just what I think I know. And it was a very long journey of doing a lot of different things. And it wasn't until 2022 when I really asked the question, it was really like this point of getting fed up where it's like, what the heck? Like, why am I not living my potential? I don't understand. Like, what is really the difference between me and someone else who feels like they can go out there, they feel lucky in life, they're getting what they want? Like, what is actually the difference? Because it's not really our age, it's not the way we look, it's not our talent, it's not like our intelligence. And so I started to really ask that question, like, what is it? What is it really? And that kind of brought me to getting sort of these downloads, I guess you can call them, where I'm like, okay, there's something at a deeper energetic level that is separating me from that person, right? At a fundamental identity level, but then at a higher level than that, it's like your worthiness, like what you actually feel worthy of in this life. And as I started to break it down, I realized, okay, I'm just holding these energies in me that are not aligned with who I really am. Who I really am is that potential, that unlimited potential I always knew when I was a kid. It's not all of this self doubt. It's not all of this low self worth. It's not all of this second guessing. And I started to release those energies at a deeper level in 2022. That's when everything started to turn around in my life. I went from being like, an actor who was really struggling with my self worth to then the universe kind of plopped in my lap what my quote purpose is. My intuition started to come, literally everything just started to come online in the middle of 2022 in a way that I'd never really planned or even like thought I wanted, to be quite honest. It was never even like a little bit of a thought in my head. And then that just led me to doing what I do now, which is just helping other people basically go through the same exact process that I went through.
Wow, that is so great. That is so interesting. I mean, do you find that a lot of people to get to the spiritual path that they go through some kind of a breakdown like that? Because I can remember when I was getting on the spiritual path
Yeah.
myself, it was just like it's like a wake-up call. It's like
Yeah.
the universe knows. It's like there's
Yes.
more for you.
Yes, exact. Well, because here's the thing, like, and I do say this a lot that I think sometimes people who have the biggest breakdowns in life, they oftentimes have the biggest potential too, because like their higher self knows what they can handle. Like they know that they can handle that breakdown in order to be able to recalibrate and come into better and awaken, like you said, awaken to wait a second, who am I really? What is my potential really? What are those bigger questions I should really be asking, right? To basically help you just expand into that new version. I mean, think about all the other people who sometimes I used to be very jealous of, who just lived very simple lives. Everything was straightforward, everything just happened happened in a very straightforward way, right? And I was like, why can't it just be like that for me? What is happening? Why do I have to live 10 different lives in order for me to come into something, right? And I think, I mean, if you really think about it though, those people, they never really had that journey of really being able to ask and question at a higher level and like come into, let's say, even a higher level of potential because they never had that catalyst to do so. They were just like, yeah, I'm just going to accept it. I'm just going to go along with what I'm given. But like when you have that catalyst moment and that awakening moment, you realize, wait a second, I could actually do so many other things. I could be so much more. So it's really a gift, even if it feels like a huge slap in the face, and it's very, very difficult. Like, um, some of the things that I've gone through, I probably wouldn't even wish on people I don't like. You know what I'm saying? But
Absolutely.
it's worth it in the end, right?
Absolutely. I almost feel guilty sometimes waking people up. It's like you're literally waking them up out of their nice, pleasant dream that they're
Yes.
having.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, here's reality. But, it's better. It's like you have to go through this, like mud, that, the sludge a little bit. But
Totally.
then what's over on the other side of that
Yes.
is just so much better than you could even imagine in your old life, but you gotta go through that.
Yeah. Oh, and actually, oh, do you even remember? I saw this visual of that movie Wally, where like they're the people in the future where like they're now just all in wheelchairs, and because like they're not exercising anymore, everything's taken care of for them. It's kind of like taking one of those people who's like confined to a wheelchair. This is their life. They're supposed to be in a wheelchair, you know, and waking them up, going, actually, you can walk, but like when you wake them up to go, actually, you can walk, what are they going to feel? They're going to feel really weak. They're going to feel really bad about themselves. Like, what? No, I can't. They're going to feel extra weak because you're forcing them now to walk. And that process of being able to walk is going to be incredibly painful and difficult. But then when they actually do walk, it's like, I can't believe I was in that wheelchair. It's
That
the
is
same
such a
process.
wonderful analogy. I totally yeah, I mean, that makes that's a perfect way of explaining what happens because, like, there's nothing that is set in stone. There's no life sentence to being the way that you are right now, and, but I think most people, like, they just won't even peek to see what is behind the veil, because it's like they're, content being the way that they are right now because they don't realize they could have something so much better.
And I'm wondering about your thoughts about this too, where because I've been thinking a lot about destiny to some degree, right? And I do think that I think everyone has unlimited potential because we're all part of the oneness. We're all part of everything, right? You can tap into anything that you want. But I do feel as though some people, they come here with sort of an agreement with themselves, right? I guess, which is to say, like, look, I'm just going to awaken to this level, right? I don't need any further than that. This is the human experience I want to sign up for. So if you meet one of those people and you go, hey, awaken, 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 and they've already reached their limit, it's just never like, I don't care who you are, it's never going to get through to them because that was the agreement they had signed with themselves. They're like, no, 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 I'm here. I'm good. Like, what are
Yeah.
you talking about? I literally have no interest in what you're talking about. Right. Cause they're just on a completely different path. And sometimes I think that that is what destiny is like beforehand, you kind of decide, well, like at what level am I going to awaken in this lifetime, right? At what
Yeah.
level am I going to get to in that way? And if it's not beyond a certain level, that's when you're just going to lose interest naturally. You're just going to be like, okay, I don't really care anymore.
I
And there's nothing wrong
100%
with
believe
that.
in that. Yeah, you know, I I'll send out the invitation to people, but if they don't RSVP, I'm moving on. I'm not going to force anybody to try to, awaken, because like you
Exactly.
said, I don't believe I don't if it's not for them, and I don't know whether it was like a contract that they made with themselves, or maybe they had that contract, but they have chosen like, "Oh, maybe not this time."
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
Exactly.
I'll try it next time,
Yeah,
because it takes courage.
it
It
does.
is something that really, it takes courage, but, it's like once you're in, you're in. It's like once you've
I
signed up for
know.
this process, it's kinda like there's almost like no turning back because
No.
there's that little place that you get to where it's like the point of no return.
Yeah, 100%, right? And like when you're like, "Oh," like it's when it goes beyond obviously we all wanna manifest amazing things, like that is part of our right here, that's what we're meant to do here is to create, but like when we start to see beyond the veil of this reality, that's when we're like, "Okay, there's no turning back." You just can't. Like you can't unsee something, and that's why I say like awakening is really just a process of seeing deeper level or higher levels of truth. That's literally the process of awakening. And obviously, when you're exposed to truth, you can't go back and unsee truth. You can't forget truth. It's in your being, it becomes a part of who you are. So, yeah, there is no turning back once you get beyond a certain point. There's just no turning back.
Exactly, exactly. So you help people release energetic blocks. What would you say are some of the most common energetic blocks that keep people stuck? And what would you say is the best way to release them?
Yeah. So energetic blocks, it's really a simplified way, a generalized way of saying certain energy patterns that are in your field at a higher level of consciousness in your or a higher level, let's call it higher level of vibration in your field that like keep you kind of stuck in these repeating cycles in life kind of over and over again. So if I say, patterns of low self-worth, I mean, it's not just low self-worth, it's like all these other patterns that are also stuck to it, right? So
Mhm.
actually, for instance, when it comes to let's say when it even just comes to abundance, a lot of the patterns that I see that are like the stickiest, and I might say it and people might go, "No, I think I've been working on that. I'm pretty good with it." But there are always deeper and deeper layers to it, are probably guilt and burden and sacrifice, right? So the
Mhm.
guilt for having more, it's that like smallness in us, right? That goes, "No, I can't have more because if I have more, then it's going to somehow be putting other people down, right? It's the burden pattern. So when I have more, I also have to sacrifice myself more or do more in order to create more,
Yeah.
right? Otherwise, it just doesn't feel good. Otherwise, I'm going to feel guilty if I don't take on more burden. Also, the sacrifice pattern of like, I have to sacrifice who I am in order to create abundance. I can't be my authentic self. I have to like turn into someone else in order to do it. So, those are some of the really common patterns that I see come up a lot in people that reflect in their reality or reflect in like the ceilings of when it comes to abundance or relationships or, what have you. And so, what I would say, for people I mean, this is like the first step of what you can do is just to take stock of your current quote limited reality. Okay, I only make this much a month. I only tend to make this much a month. I have a cap at this. I've never made that much a month. And I want and like just write those things down or what are the limitations of your reality? Like what are literally the physical boundaries of your reality? Write them down, how much you make, the kind of relationships you can get into, all of that stuff. And if it triggers you, if you're like, wait, why am I not making more than that? What is going on? Right? That's actually an opportunity from the universe to go, oh, look, there's energy in you that you're holding on to that's going like that's limiting you.
Mhm.
Right? And for you to understand though that it's not the way it has to be. This is where people get trapped. They're like, "Oh, it's just the way it has to be." No, it's the way it has to be because of the energy in your field. If you shifted your energy at a deeper level, then you would actually see that, "Oh wait, it doesn't have to be that way." And
Mhm.
then you would start becoming aligned and start seeing other opportunities that would be able to match you to better levels of results. But it
Mhm.
would happen organically. It wouldn't be something you would have to necessarily force as much.
Uh-huh.
It's just
Interesting.
energy.
Yeah. And how would you go about I get that, so that all really makes sense. So, first you just kind of take, write down, like what are these things that are bothering me about
Yeah.
why,
Yep.
about my level of abundance. It's like and it might be like, well, that person, like, they don't know any more than I do.
Oh,
So
100%. Like, that's actually how it started for me, where I was literally like, that person. And like sometimes we need those people in our life, those people that we kind of compare ourselves to,
yeah,
not because it's about them, it's because it's about us. They're showing up in our reality because it's about
right.
us. Like they're doing us a service. And we're like, wait a second, they don't really know more than me. They're not really that much more talented than me. They're not any better than me. So why can they show up in that way, but I can't? Right. And
Mhm.
then it's like literally actually even using the leverage of that to even get you a little angry to go, fuck that. Like, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't mean to
No,
swear.
that's fine. It's fine.
Screw that. Okay. Like I'm done playing this role, right? Higher self, like show me what I need to release or what I need to do in order to activate a higher level of embodiment that would lead me to results like that, you know?
Yeah.
And then your higher self, but here's the thing, this is where people get stuck is then your higher self is going to show you a lot of stuff that's not going to be very nice and that's going to
Mhm.
like probably upset you and that you
Mhm.
like right it's the whole seeing the truth process and
Right.
you're like oh crap I have a long ways to go in order to get there but that first initial oh no that's actually just the awakening process that's
Yeah.
part of the process of you coming into that next level and then you got to trust the lessons and the challenges and all of those things that the universe presents you are opportunities for you to be able to shed the stuff that's not working for you and then
Mhm.
come into that higher level of you.
Yeah, it's kind of like, there's I can't remember, it's like from a movie, but he says, something about, I think it was Samuel L. Jackson. He said, "If you don't want to, get, scary answers, don't ask scary questions."
That's so true. That
You
is so
know?
true.
Or, like Jack Nicholson, and, it's like, you can't handle the truth. You know,
Yes.
but you can handle the truth,
Yes.
because life, God, the universe never gives you more than you can handle.
100%.
You just have to have the courage to ask the question. I think that's one of the things, maybe you could speak to that a little bit, is just like, maybe, what if a person is sort of so stuck, they know that there's a question to ask, but they're like, they're so blocked, they can't even, get themselves out of their own way to ask the question, or to like really listen to the, the right answer. Like what, like, is there
Yeah,
something
sure.
around that you could speak to?
So one of the things that I would say I just feel as though there are different phases, right?
Yeah.
Because when you are and this is the tower moment, right, in your life where everything falls apart and you have to ask the deeper questions, if you're sometimes people need to get to that tower moment, right? To be open enough to ask the questions and vulnerable enough to ask questions. I find it that people are in the hardest spot when they know something's not working, but they're not willing to
Mhm.
see it. Like you said, they're just not willing to see it. So they basically just want you to come in and say, "Well, nothing's wrong with you. You're doing everything exactly right." But and then when you give them some of the answers or you actually shed light on some of the things, they close off and they're like, "Nope, I don't agree with that. I think that's totally off." Right? Then
Mhm.
that person's just not ready. Like that person needs to hit that tower moment and no one can control that for them. No one can really break that for them. They need to come to that realization of almost vulnerability to be open enough for them to actually get to the place where they can ask the question. Most people who are not willing to ask the questions, they're not at that open enough place to actually ask it.
Right, exactly. They're still kind of like trying to figure it out on a surface level, and they're not
Exactly.
really willing to go to the deeper levels inside.
100%.
Which brings me to another question. So, you and I tend to do have the same intention, but we do it at in different ways. So
Mhm.
I deal more with subconscious programming, and you deal a little bit more with energetic blocks. So I think it really leads a really good question. And maybe you might tell me they're similar in some way. So, how would you say that they're the same, and how would you say that they're different?
Yeah. So subconscious programming, mindset, all of those things incredibly important. Like you hear about people who are very successful talking about those things, right? So I work with people where those things haven't been able to work with for them.
Mm-hmm.
But you need it all. Like, you need it all, right?
Yeah.
You actually do need it all. But I work with people who, let's say, those things are not working for them, and that's usually because at a higher level of consciousness or vibration, they're running certain patterns that they just like, they're just never really gonna be able to see because they're so in it.
Yeah.
And it's just at a higher level of vibration in their field. So basically what I do is I just awaken their higher self to see, hey, look, you're running this program at a higher level of consciousness or vibration in a field. Like, you don't need to do it this way. You can release it, right? They begin the process of releasing it kind of like at that higher level. And then they start to have these like aha moments at a more conscious level. And then they're like, oh, right. And then all of a sudden the pattern releases for them and they become a little bit like, let's say, some people, they might become a little bit like a blank slate of like, okay, well, what do I replace this with? Kind of a thing, right? And then this is where, okay, the mindset, the subconscious programming, those other things can really help, right? Transition them. But there are other people where they're just stuck at the subconscious level. They're just stuck at the mindset level. They
Yeah.
need people to be able to trigger that in them to get them out of that, right? So I just see it as all very complementary,
Yeah.
and all necessary, but just different aspects of getting people into the change that they need.
Right. And can you walk me through just a minute, just a mini, like, 3 step, 5 step, whatever process you might use to help a person with releasing their energy blocks? Like, how do you go about that? What's that process like?
Yeah. So I teach people a blueprint in how to identify all their energetic blocks. But then when I'm actually working with someone one on one, it kind of looks different for everybody. But usually, what happens for me is when I'm sitting with someone or I'm like seeing them, I get brought to a certain part of their body. So that's just the way my abilities work. I just get brought to a certain part of their body. I don't even know always why, but then I go into the session and I like usually have to close my eyes so I can really concentrate and understand what am I seeing. And then this is where I can start to see some of their patterns. Sometimes I can see memories, past life stuff. But really it's the pattern. It doesn't really matter where it comes from at a deeper energetic level. And so I'll tell them, you tend to do that in life. That tends to happen to you in life. Then that happens, right? Then you end up attracting this. And then they'll go, oh, yeah, I do. How did you know? Again, I'm just seeing the program. It's not
Mhm.
about the specific instances of what has happened. And then what I do is I basically help shake their higher self up to go, hey, you're running this program. You don't need to run it. And it's really just an awakening at a higher level for their higher self to go, oh, okay. I don't need to run that anymore. And then that person goes through a whole detox process where they're releasing the energies and everything like that. Um, so that's how I work when I'm working with someone. But then when I'm teaching them, I'm really teaching them, okay, what is everything that you have to be aware of in your reality? Like, I'm teaching them like the concepts of like how energy actually works and like what is everything that you need to be aware of that is very sneaky that you are not seeing in your reality that is leading you to retain and keep these energy blocks in your field that's keeping you capped, right? That's like blocking you. Okay. And things, includes things like, are you really able to set boundaries? Are you actually able
Mhm.
to do that? Because if you're not, then that's clearly showing you something in your energy that is keeping you capped, right? Like, are you and we all kind of understand this, but are you acting from different aspects of old versions of you that you're trying to heal? Like old versions of you, like for me, I got bullied when I was younger. Are you now acting from that aspect of the bullied version of Paget who's now trying to prove that like I'm better than those bullies, right? Do you know what I mean? And it's like
Right.
all of these aspects that we hold in ourselves that can lead to like energy blockages. Um,
That's great. That's amazing work that you do with, I love, like that you literally are guided to exactly where in their body, and their body kind of like shows you, and it sends
yes,
you the
it's yeah,
messages. I've
exactly.
had a very I've had experiences of that where and we learned how to do this, at a workshop that I had taken like some time ago, where we would literally be able to almost like kind of release people of certain pains and things like that, because
Mhm.
aren't these energetic blocks? I mean, sometimes, I mean, they can literally manifest
Oh,
themselves as
100%.
ailments and things like
Yes.
that.
Oh my god, it is so common. In fact, oftentimes if I see something in someone, like the burden pattern, and I get usually and it's so funny because all these parables of like, "Oh, you get off my back," and, like all these things that people say, like just as expressions, they're actually true energetically. It's so funny. Like if you run
Oh,
patterns
yeah.
of burden, it usually shows up in your back. And then if I'm seeing that coming up in you, I can also go, and like your back is really tense, like your shoulder blades are really tense, and it would lead to your whole chest being very tense. And they'd be like, yeah, because it is all connected. It's like
Yeah.
all the same thing, really.
Yeah.
Like our bodies are just communication channels for our higher selves and our energies.
Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. You had mentioned those three patterns, the burden, the sacrifice, and one other, guilt.
Yes.
Guilt. Are there others, or are those like just the main three, or are there, like, are there others?
So those are the ones I would say are the biggest ones for
Yeah.
like the people pleasers. I mean, like, right. People who play smaller than their actual potential. Those are the main ones that I'll just see coming up over. Fear of persecution, right? Same, similar, actually. They're all kind of intertwined. But then there are other ones too, like, for instance, abuse patterns where you would attract kind of like abusive types of relationships,
Mhm.
right? Or let's say even patterns where people would take advantage of you, right? Use you. Like, so there are all these different, or the underdog pattern is what I call it, where you have to speak up even more or be seen even more in order to get the same level of attention. Like there are all these different patterns that show up in different people in different ways, but then obviously we're all human. There's a lot of patterns that just overlap,
Yeah.
right? And the goal isn't to go, "Oh, I just don't want any patterns." Like we
Right.
literally wouldn't exist. The goal is to go, "Okay, I want to release them to the point that they're capping me."
Mhm. Mhm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, there are a lot of different patterns that show. And also another one that we all have is just inheriting patterns from our parents, right? Even like physical patterns. So like for instance, when people get older, like usually it's like 25 and over, they start to look more and more like a parent or a grandparent or whatever it is. And you might think, well, yeah, of course I am born from them, but you'll notice some people, like, energetically, they are also start feeling like a specific parent. Even their behaviors start, like, repeating like a specific parent, and it's because they're actually just repeating the same energy patterns as a particular parent.
Right. That no, that makes sense. It's like when you even start like noticing, it's like you're talking like you're, or even adopting some of the same physical issues that they
Exactly.
had, or any of those things. Yeah, it makes a lot of
Exactly.
sense. I wonder if like control is also like a pattern, like for some
100%.
that came up for me.
Oh, control is, oh my gosh, for us, like, overthinkers and type A, control is like the heart, like, it's and because control is it stems from visceral fear,
Yeah.
like that if we do not control, it's just like we're going to be unsafe, like, we might even die, actually, right? It gets so deep for some people that, like, yeah, control is actually one of the hardest patterns to break in
Yeah.
people
Or
because they
even
also,
like
yeah,
working so hard.
100, like,
Struggle.
struggle.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
struggle.
like,
Yeah.
and then we'll attract situations that make us struggle even more. Like, even if we don't actually need to, we'll literally create another situation that forces us to struggle. Right? Because that's how powerful we are. If we run these patterns, we'll just create it in our lives.
Yeah, I have an idea. Now, are there, positive patterns that you can swap these,
Oh yeah.
negative patterns for?
Yeah, so that's a good question because like a lot of people go, "Oh my god, this is so negative." But here's the positive, okay? Is
Okay.
that like in your truest essence, in your purest form, in your real truth, guess what? You're all positive.
Yeah.
Like you're abundant, you're happy, you're whole, you're fulfilled, you're vibrant, you're healthy. Like so that's really the deeper truth is like who you are is positive. It is brilliant. It is limitless. So when I work with people, for instance, like it is releasing a lot of their gunk, but then it's also okay, well, let's actually bring in your pure essence of who you are at the same time so that you have something to hook on to. So like I can usually see people's like it depends on how much stuff they have in their field, right? But then I can usually see what their actual pure essence is, like the version of them that they were actually meant to be, which can
Mhm.
sometimes be a pretty big departure from like who they've been conditioned to be with their patterns. But yes, right? It's about you just coming into who you are, like at a deeper level, and that naturally happens just really as you release all the stuff that you're not.
Right. Okay, that makes so much sense. I almost have a tendency while you're talking about this to, to really almost intertwine this with the subconscious. So they're energy patterns, but I would say that the subconscious probably keeps them there because maybe there's some kind of an intent, that the subconscious has for, like positive intent. Like all the things that we do,
Yeah,
there's always some kind of like it's trying to do something for
totally.
us. What are your
Yes.
thoughts about that?
Yes. So when you talked about the control pattern, okay,
Mhm.
the reason why that one is so difficult is because here's the thing. If you release these patterns at a higher level of vibration or whatever beyond the conscious mind, guess what? Like there is a process to that, which I teach people, which is that you have to confirm that you really want to delete the pattern in your physical reality at times, right? You'll be presented an opportunity where you can go, all right, I'm just going to let that one go. I'm not going to give into my control pattern, right? And if you confirm it, then oh my god, everything's going to change. But if you don't, you're holding on, you're consciously holding on to the pattern now. And all of a sudden it becomes not to scare you, it becomes a conscious choice that you want this pattern. Before it was an unconscious choice that you had the
Right.
pattern. Now it's a conscious choice, and so now it becomes a little harder for you to release. And so this is where, okay, the subconscious programming, and then to also, right, to help you actually make the decision like, no, I don't want that anymore.
Right. It was almost like you're wearing this armor, but you didn't realize you were wearing this armor, but now you become aware of it and you become more exposed if you take it off.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly.
Cool. Let me ask you just one other thing before we start to wrap up here. What advice would you give to people who feel lost in their purpose? Like they're just not sure. Maybe like they don't even know they have any patterns because they haven't even decided what their purpose is. They're not even going for that. What advice would you give?
Yeah. So I mean, I would just start with I mean, the advice I give everybody really is like, especially if someone's lost on their path or their purpose, is when you clarify into the version of you that you were meant to be, so like more of your pure essence, right? Your path, your higher self knows what you don't know. So your
Hmm.
path will almost be presented to you in a way that you can't plan or you can't like logically think about. That's what's happened to me. If you think about, people who are listening, like aspects of your lives where it really changed your life, was it something you planned for? No. Was it a decision that you like put in a book somewhere, right? When you were like 5? No, it was something that usually kind of hit you in a surprising kind of way, in a surprising turn of events, because that's the way you designed it for yourself. You don't really want to know every single thing because then you might actually miss the path. You might actually miss the real path to getting there. So just start on the journey of understanding who you are at a deeper level. Start on that journey of like discovering the best, most purest version of you. And then your higher self you'll start to clarify, by the way, that communication with your higher self, and you'll be able to start to listen to your higher self to guide you closer to what your path actually is. That's what happened to me. That's what's happened to a lot of my clients where, they might have felt lost. And then all of a sudden they reconnect with like their childhood joy, their childhood passion. And they go, oh, I didn't even know that that was necessarily even possible for me still. And then they go, okay, well, actually, I feel something opening up in the field around that, right? Because it's all to me, it's all like energy. It's like what energy are you embodying to be able to attract like the life that you want to live?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, and you're gonna get on that path either by choice or by, uh, life telling you it's time.
Yes, 100%. Oh yeah.
Well, this has been extremely enlightening and fun, and I've just really enjoyed, learning about your processes. I'd love to, have our listeners, have an interaction experience with you. So let's talk about how you would like them to follow up with you.
Yeah. So you can go to my Instagram. It's at my full name, Paget Kagy. You can follow me and then message me energy, just the word energy. I'll send you a free frequency clearing where basically I'm just helping you get into those higher levels of consciousness, helping you tap into those higher levels of consciousness so that you can start releasing some of your energy patterns.
Yeah,
So
and
that's the best one.
yeah, and absolutely follow Paget because she has so many inspiring Instagram reels, and I was just really just you know just listening to a whole bunch of them right before this show, and they were just, really inspiring, and they're just like quick, short, bursts of inspiration. So definitely, definitely, I highly recommend they follow you. So, any last tips, before we wrap up for today?
The only thing that I will say is clearly, if you're listening to Victoria, right, you're on this journey of self discovery. You know that you're meant for more, and that's because you are meant for more. So I know that no one's going to give up, no one's going to turn back, but because you can't. But just know that that deeper spark within you is actually your higher self trying to wake you up to that higher power within you to create the life that you want.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being a guest on the Power of Your on the Power of Your Mind podcast. I really appreciate all of your insight and wisdom and energy that you brought forth today. And so thank you so much. And thank you, guests, for listening to another wonderful episode of the Power of Your Mind podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.